Hello and welcome in to the SorareData Football Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. He's back. PSU fans too. Sean Newsham following his 2 weeks absence. He is here. Sean, welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to finally be off suspension. Yeah, for those that don't know, Laird like banned me for weeks because of poor usage of the English language and swearing too much. So unfortunately, like as you can see, he put me in like a detention facility. So like that's why I sound pretty terrible. So it's good to be back. I mean, I know everyone was missing me. The fans were definitely out there in full force. So I mean, it's good. It's good to return. Hopefully, I can get through the show. We'll see. We'll see if that can happen. But we're ready to drop some f bombs out here and move on.
Yeah, that's right. I locked you in a room and you were screaming for 2 weeks to get out. And we
That's
finally let you. It was as simple
exactly.
as
I mean,
that.
I barely left bed for like 10 days. So I mean, it's definitely time to make a return appearance. But yeah, definitely glad to see people definitely know that you did suspend me. So that's good to know. But yeah, good to return.
Anyway, we're here today to talk about the cat mode competitions. Now that it's been a few weeks, it really hasn't been that long, but we were talking yesterday because I feel like you and I have gone back and forth in terms of like what we think or how we're kind of attacking the cat competitions, particularly 240, like the threshold one. We're going to mostly talk about that one today, but we are going to touch on the 220 and 270 because we do also have opinions on those. Don't you worry. Plenty of opinions here. But you just straight up were like, I hate the cat modes yesterday. And I was like, that's so funny because like I actually have started to enjoy them. But obviously our galleries are in different spots. The you both said you are not enjoying the new cat modes, but also that you're like, I don't want to say you're like prioritizing the 240 to hit the thresholds, but you are making sure you get there and you have gotten there for the most part. And so what is it that made, like, was there a final like straw that broke the camel's back where you were like, I actually don't like these at all?
I mean, I didn't really like him to begin with. Blue Tomatoes asked who was making my lineups while I was out. Luckily, SorareData Mobile Lineup Builder is a fantastic tool to use. So I was able to do everything in between my waking up with the chills and a fever and not being able to go right back to sleep. I would just like create my lineups in the Mobile Lineup Builder. Adam makes a comment. He said he loves the cat mode and they are good for non-whales. Totally disagree with that. We will discuss that.
That is really funny, actually.
Yeah, dude, I literally think it's the exact opposite. I think it's way more beneficial for whales. Um, but I wouldn't say that I'm like prioritizing, but I guess I am because I'm prioritizing like 240 cap. Like, well, you can look at my 240 super rare cap and be like, oh wow, you played like this card there. Um, so it's definitely a situation where I think there's definitely some prioritization going on there for me. Like I prioritized unique 240 this week as well. I actually am going to stone bubble the cards there, but I prioritized it because with where the market is right now, I think getting the thresholds that they're providing with these things are worth a reasonable amount. So like I think it's pretty worthwhile. So like we look at my cap 240 super rare. You're gonna see like I used Gonzalez there.
Yeah.
Like that's a really high end card. Like the other stuff isn't necessarily that high end, but
The Barraza Zero is really helpful there.
Baraz zeros very actually I don't even know if he was a zero because I think he might have played at some point
No,
last season.
I had it as rare.
Um,
He was a zero.
okay, he was a zero. So yeah, so like I prioritize that and I'm definitely finding ways. So someone was talking last week, I forget who it was, I don't know. But Chileo asked if I'm sick. Yes, I had COVID for like the last 2 weeks. I barely have left bed since like
Hmm.
the Friday before last.
That
Uh,
was not part of the that was not part of the suspension, by the way.
yeah, Laird like put me in such a bad mood that I got COVID and during my suspension. But
Purely
it,
coincidental that he was gone for
yeah,
2 weeks, had COVID for 2 weeks.
but like last week, like I didn't leave bed till like Wednesday. Like I feel better overall, but I still sound terrible. And I told Laird before we came on the show, like I went from having COVID to just being sick. I like now just feel like I have a cold and still feel terrible, but I'm at least not like pounding headache with the chills and everything. So apologize prematurely for any time I have to blow my nose during the show. I'll mute myself when I do it, but it's going to happen. Um, so like, yeah, these other cards per se aren't necessarily like elite level cards. Elber's pretty elite. Like if I know Elber's going to start, Elber's a pretty elite card.
Yeah.
So he's pretty elite. Bariel had a great matchup. Houston's terrible. He had a good performance. And then Lennon, I think Lennon got like a late decisive to bail him
Yeah.
out.
The A was pretty good though.
But like I'm pretty much prioritizing like if I get a threshold here, it's like what 0.6? 0.06
Oh,
like
06, 0.06 for the
0.06,
super.
like that's probably worth like a tier 2 right now. Maybe even yeah, like I don't think it's a tier 1 still. I think it's like a tier 2, but like it's like a mid to high tier 2. So like just knowing that I can get a threshold is pretty important. And then not to mention like I know my lineups are good enough that I can plug in here and get a realistic card. But one of the more unique ways to use zeros right now for in terms of goalies or just players, I'll actually tell you how like I don't care about it. We'll talk about it when we go to rares. Um, but like you can't really use a zero in 270. The cap's just too wide at 270 that like you can't really use a zero and get the most out of it. So you have to use a zero in like 240 or 220, and 220 is like just a steaming pile of poop that see guys, I had to learn poop because gotta abide by Laird's rules here. But like so 220 is just terrible as it is, so like it doesn't really matter. But like zeros fit really well in 220. And like my 220 lines are still gonna be good because I have enough good cards that they're gonna be fine. But like at 240, if you can get a zero in a 240, it doesn't really work as well in the super rare department for me because you got to have an average of 60 on the other 4 super rares. That's a bit tricky, but rares I can definitely make that happen. So anyways, I think that there's definite paths to go. We see I missed the 240 cap this week thanks to Moose putting up 4. 4 did not cut it, but like everyone else was pretty terrible as well. But like if Moose puts up 20, I get my threshold here. But like you see Timber, like I'm using Timber here. Like Timber wasn't as good of a matchup as some of my other U23 defenders per se. So like that's why I'm more open to playing him in Cap 240 here. But like I think that you definitely will see some more out there cards for me, like that you wouldn't expect other people to have. But that's why, like, so the issue why it's better for Wales is like if we look through I played Kimmich in Cap 270 last midweek because I just didn't really have anywhere for him to fit. And I was just like, whatever, and threw him in Cap 270. But like, yeah, like you look at Cap 270, like I'm running like a really good lineup here that like you can't run unless you have really good high-end cards that a lot of people aren't going to have. Like my Cap 270 Super has Teddy Tuma in it because I wasn't 100% convinced he'd play, and had Yari, who's been really freaking good lately. And then had a stack from Udinese, who had a good matchup that just didn't come through. But like, so it's a situation where the bigger your gallery is, you can run legit good cards because it's just about sitting there and figuring out what matches the cap best. And like we'll look like literally Laird and I were joking. I played Jay Gorder in every single limited cap mode because he fit and it made sense for every single cap mode. So like I literally ran him in all 3 cap 220, cap 240, cap 270s. But like the bigger your gallery is, the more options you're going to have on a week in, week out basis. The reason I don't like it from a smaller gallery perspective is like you can't just have 5 guys and run it for a threshold like you used to be able to. You have to have like 20, 25 dudes that you can mix and match every week. So that's like my dislike for it from a smaller gallery perspective. They're just at such a disadvantage to someone that has a bigger gallery. But I mean, that's really no different, I guess, than every other competition per se. But the reason I don't like it is like, I just don't want to spend the time looking through everything, doing all the math, figuring out what makes the most sense. And that's just from a pure lazy standpoint. But like, I know I'm way less lazy than a lot of people. So I'm assuming a lot of people have that same lazy sort of aspect thought to it.
Yeah, I think part of it is that most people are not submitting this many lineups. So like I understand that if you're in a situation where you're setting so many lineups with no cap implications, and then you have to like go in and figure out the actual ones that fit under the cap,
Yeah,
There's a point where like the time isn't worth it.
Baptiste brings up a good example. Baptiste brings up he has 20 rares, and it's difficult for him to do it on a week in, week out basis. Baptiste, how have you been getting how have you found getting the threshold? Like, have you been hitting it, or have you not been hitting it with like 20 rare cards? Because I'm actually curious, because in my opinion, that's like sort of the level that I would care about. If you're hitting it every week and you have 20 rare cards, all right, then it's probably a pretty realistic competition that isn't that bad. But I saw people on Twitter, like, dude posted a tweet where he like hit like 220. He's like, this should be good enough for a threshold. I have a 0 in goal, and like I average 45 a person. I'm like, dude, that's literally why they changed it, and you don't deserve a threshold. Like, they're trying to make it to where you can still get it, but not as easily as you once could.
You need to win it. You don't just come up, you don't just show up and get it. Like you have to go out and win it. I just wanted to bring this up that since you played Timber in 240 rare, I prioritized Cap 240 super rare for me just because the way that my gallery is, like, I don't necessarily have, I don't think like super rares that are great enough to really compete. So I played the Korean Timber in 240 super rare, and then I got K-leagued and just he didn't show up. But I think it's one of these things that
if he played, you would have hit it, though.
Yes, absolutely. So to pull back behind the curtain, I was talking to Sean about what we were going to talk about today. And I was like, do you think it's worth trying to have like not like how to build a threshold team, because we obviously have done that previously, but kind of that, like, how do you build a gallery that like focuses on cap modes? And Sean's response was like, you can't. Like, it's really not that viable, at least in terms of like, go buy, here are 5 cards you can buy and you'll just hit the threshold each week, because just like we said, like the L15s change every week. So now you got to buy another card. And I don't think that there's like a specific number of you're fine as long as you have 20 cards or 12 or 8. Like, I don't think there's a number, mostly because it kind of depends on what cards you have. Because like we have this week, like I played Brad Guzan in 2 different spots because he had an L15 of 0. And like, we're always going to have zeros. I think we had more this week than we'll ever have, because just the way that, MLS came back and everyone was keep talking about all these like cheat codes. My response was kind of like, are they actually cheat codes if like everyone has them? Like, it was almost weird to see lineups that didn't have a 0 in it. And like, I ended up playing, my 220 was, I don't even have a 0 in this. And I got Messi in. And so like, you don't even need it. Shout out to Gorder wasn't a 0, was he?
Gorder was 27-ish.
Yeah. So close enough, I guess.
So Baptiste said he has yet to hit the 240 capped with 20 rare cards since they've changed it. Ben Johnson just said full 5-man stacks have been working for me. I have 2 stacks and rotate based on matchup and win every time. The question for you, Ben, is what do you do when those guys are no longer below the cap? Because it's going to happen. If you're hitting the cap, that means they're not going to be below the cap pretty soon. But yeah, like that's the whole idea, is that like you can't fully prepare for like cap mode and being able to be like, this makes the most sense in cap mode. You just have to have cards. Like, it's all about just having cards. The more cards you have, the better. And Isco said you shouldn't build a gallery primarily focuses on cap modes. I see cap modes as an extra. I agree with that. I think that you should be, if you're buying cards, like if basically the way that I look at it, if you have a more of a like sort of wider gallery, if your lineups make sense for a cap mode, then play it in the cap mode. If your lineup is really good and you're like, this is a really good lineup, then play it in the cap mode. If your lineup's not really good, then you might not want to play it in the cap mode. So Paulo just said he thinks that Specialist was more fun to scout and fit the cap. So my counterpoint with Specialist is that once your guy hit 41, he was useless.
So bad.
And that was the problem with Specialist mode. Whereas cap mode, like your guy goes from 40 to 42, you can probably still play him. You just might have to switch around a little things. Whereas like your guy in Specialist goes from 40 to 41, boom, you're just done. But like part of the issue, I guess, with cap mode is like 220 sucks. Cap 220 is just horrific.
Let's at least specify the rewards suck.
They're terrible. Like you literally, so Cap 220 limited, they are giving away 1 star. If you win, you get a star. If you finish,
Honestly, I didn't even know that.
yeah, I didn't know there was a star there. That's how bad it is. If you get 4th through 6th, you get a tier 1. Everything else is worse than a tier 1. And I'm not saying, like, I understand entirely people just want to win cards. So like I do respect that from a perspective of like people just want to win something. But like we go to Cap 220 rare. Cap 220 rare is giving out 1 tier 1. One. If you finish first, you get a tier 1. Anything else, you're not even getting a tier 1, you're getting a tier 2. So my point more so with Cap 220 is that if you're playing Cap 220 with any card worth a shit to you that week,
I think you're looking at the midweek stuff.
Oh, I
That's
am.
why they're so low.
No, you're right. I'm looking.
The weekend's 5 tier 1s for.
Okay, 5 tier 1. It's still
very low. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things. Like you cannot put legitimate cards in your Cap 220 because there's just no point.
Yeah, I was saying there are 8,700 entrants and there are 5 tier 1s available.
5 tier 1s for 87 entrants. And like, I'm not even saying like, so this is how little I cared this weekend. I put Miles Robinson in my Cap 220 and I realized I'm like, I should just put him in Cap 240, but I was just like, I don't care. And it just didn't change it. But like, so like, that's the thing is like, people are out here and they're like running legit lineups in Cap 220 and like actually taking Cap 220 seriously. I'm out there with my throwaways running a goalie, which is whatever, Miles Robinson with a 0, Tony Cruz, Noah Lang, and Jesus Ferreira. And that's like a throwaway that I don't care about. Like, it's literally like that was the 40th lineup I made this weekend or whatever. Like, it just
still didn't
have a lineup for me. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, people that have big galleries are going to have good lineups here. Like, there's no way you're not going to have a good lineup here if you have a big gallery because you're still going to have enough cards that you're going to find stuff that functions. And zeros just don't work in 270. So, like, if I have a 0, you can only realistically use one of them in 240. That's it. You can only use one of them. And if I use one of them in 240 and I have 2 zeros, it's still going to end up in 220 because I just might as well, like, I might as well make a decent lineup there. But that's just like my sort of thought process is like Cap 220 is just really poor. You can't really prepare for it and make lineups that make sense for like the cap modes because you have to buy cards. The idea is just like get a lot of cards and then every week you're going to have cards and you can put them where they make the most sense. But the problem is like if you have a small gallery and you have 5 or 6 cards, you just can't play cap mode, or you can some weeks maybe. Like if it matches up, sure, fire the cap mode and get your lineup in. But if it doesn't make sense, like it's really difficult to force in a cap mode. Or like you end up in Cap 220. Well, Cap 220 is just a steaming pile. Like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So Alex actually like brought this point up that I was going to say to you because you were like, you don't want to run 2 zeros. Like if you're running 2 zeros in Cap 270 so that you can fit in like absolute superstar cards, why are you playing those in Cap 270?
Well, that's the problem. You shouldn't be doing that. Like, I mean, this goes back to something you said though before, and I actually have told you that Pico just asked, do you think they'll introduce Cap 200? No, I don't think so. I mean, 220 is already terrible. I don't know how they can have 200 and not be awful. And not to mention, like, 220 is restrictive. Like, 220 points is a restrictive cap. Like, even if you have a 0, you're at 55 a pop. It's somewhat restrictive. But, like, something that you said that I vehemently disagree with is you're like, a goalie of 0 isn't that good. Yeah, it is. It's still that good. And your reasoning was, well, if your goalie's 0 and he scores 15, it's not that good. It's still good. Because the whole idea with the cap mode is to exceed the cap by as many points as possible. So if you have a 0 and you get 15 points above the cap with that guy, that's good. Like I think typically what's winning has been around like what's been getting cards in Cap 240. I almost won Cap 240 the weekend before. But like, what do you need to get a reward in Cap 240, Laird?
I actually had that somewhere. Hold on. So to go back to the whole like the goalie 0 doesn't matter in Cap 220. The problem that people have is that yes, you have to exceed the cap, but I think people aren't even getting all the way to the cap.
Yeah, that's
with their
Correct.
0, and therefore it's like, well, if everybody outperforms, you're still not at the point total you need to get to.
If you come up with a lineup and if you make a lineup and your lineup, like for Cap 220, if your lineup is 200 points, that 0 isn't really a 0,
It's
it's
not
like a
help,
20
right?
because you're starting 20 points below what the cap is. So
All right, hold on. I got it here. I have the 240 numbers. So I didn't look at like 220.
okay, so 240 to get a reward is about 300 this week.
Yeah, it's usually around there, 300.
Okay, so you need to get
for
about
tier 3.
For a tier 3. For like a tier 2, you need 330. Tier 1, you need 380. So like to get like a card, you need your guys to exceed by average of 12 points a person. In 240, in cap 240. And to get like a tier 2, you need to like exceed by like 20 points a person. And to get like a tier 1, you got to exceed by like 30 points a person. That's a lot. Like it's just a lot. Like you're literally saying you need to get like 70 average to get to 350, which isn't even a tier 1. Like you need to average like 75 a player. Like that's really freaking hard. Not to mention, like, if you're averaging if you average 75 a player, you'd be better off with it in rare, in all-star
In
rare,
all-star, yeah.
because you're gonna get ETH from that because you're gonna finish in the top 100. If you put up 370, if you're putting up 375 with no bonus and XP, you're getting ETH in all-star rare. Because like this week in all-star rare, I'm not gonna get it, I don't think, but I'm close, and I'm at 388. And that's with all XP and bonus. So if you put up 375 and you're gonna get at least probably a top 50, I would say, in all-star rare. So like anyone that's winning a tier 1 in cap mode, it would be better off in all-star rare anyways.
From a reward perspective, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Mike brought up this point. He said, is 220 more to help those progressing more than established managers? And like, I think that was the idea. The problem is that you have people like Sean.
Yeah.
Who's like running Noah Lang, and who are the other ones? I don't even remember.
Gabriel Jesus, Tony Cruz, or Jesus Ferreira, sorry.
Right. And
Jesus
it's like,
Ferreira, yeah.
And I don't think that they're going to get to a point where they limit the people who can enter those. I actually think that's really bad if they do that. But so like, I think it's, the idea is like, yeah, you can progress into it in terms of like entering a lineup, but I just don't think it ends up being all that competitive. Although Ben Johnson said he did it already. He said, I have the full St. Mirren squad in rare. One threshold bought the entire defensive line as they're 10 pounds each. There's enough variance in L15s with those guys to fit under the cap each week.
Yeah.
I believe that, but like, yeah, I think 240 is different than 220 and 270. Like, I think they're completely different games.
Well, 220 is set up to be a progression because you're allowed to play like a limited of some sort. The issue is that like, if you win, if you finish like 6th, which is 6 out of 8,700, you get a tier 2. And that doesn't really help you progress into anything else.
It's also, I actually haven't looked at the data yet to see like how many people actually play limiteds, like limiteds in rare 220 or commons in limited.
I'm sure a lot did. I didn't, but that's,
I would assume. I mean, I played a common in limited 220.
I saw your messy when you just popped it up. Yeah, like, I mean, it makes sense. I played a rare goalie in cap 220 super rare, but that's just because why not?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I think that well, I don't have very many super goalies, so it makes it a lot more easily if I can do it.
Preaching to the choir on that one. Skazmo said, what do we think about the old 205 point half threshold in 220 to incentivize progression for low managers? Takes out that competition versus the big accounts.
That would be reasonable to me.
Threshold score. Why does that take the big accounts out though?
It doesn't take the big accounts out, but like, it means you're playing for something, like you're playing for a small threshold. I think that's reasonable.
So Sean, if they introduced a smaller threshold in 220, would you go from taking 10 seconds to 20 seconds to build that lineup?
No, but like for a smaller gallery, that would be incentivization to run that lineup, and like that actually would help you progress a bit. Like, if you made 220, like cap 220, and you made like the lower threshold like 225, so like you had to hit 225 points, I think a lot of smaller galleries would definitely find that more interesting because you're gonna get a guaranteed amount of ETH each week in that situation.
Yeah. Palace said a big change is related with rewards and the fact we can't get tier 0 and 1 rares in limited. That is the big difference. Like from like specialist limited, you could win the
Yeah.
scarcity up.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But
definitely.
you can do that in 240 and 270.
No, you can't do it in 240. I think it's only 270, isn't
Is it
it?
just 270?
I think it's just 270. Let me look at 240. Oh, it is 242.
Yeah, I thought it was both. I mean, it's not many of them,
But
it
it's not
wasn't
like
many of them with specialist anyway.
yeah, it's not like a good card though. It's a tier 2 or tier 3. Like you can't win like a legit card in 240. I don't see 270 here.
Yeah, like a podium gets you a tier 3, a star rare, and the tier 3 super rare that's probably worth a tenth of that star.
Yeah, like tier 3 super rare is worth like under 0.1 ETH. Like just
It depends. I mean, I've gotten lucky.
Oh, I have too. Like I have as well.
So it's not dead. It's
No.
most likely dead. But
Well, yeah, you're just hoping for someone young. If you get someone young, that's what you're hoping for because then like maybe they can be worthwhile in the future. Cap
Yeah.
270 limited gives so it's tier 2s and tier 3s. So like yeah, you really can't win anything of value. And like I don't want to sound like I'm hating on the fact that like you can win cards. Like, I know people want to win cards. So I totally acknowledge that like just winning a card is good for people. But like it's really difficult to be happy just winning a card if you have like legit players in the lineups. Like if running like legit players in Cap 240 or Cap 220, like running a legit player in Cap 220 and you just don't have a gallery for it, just like ugh. Cap 270 is a bit better too, because someone also mentioned a little bit ago. Alex Wilson said the main issue with 270 is your captain. If he doesn't have a base score of 90 plus, you're screwed. I hate it. I hate
that's the worst like gameplay decision they've made in I can't remember a worse.
I hate the 50% captain thing.
It's so like there's no reason for it. None.
It's so stupid. But yeah, you are right. If you don't just smack your captain, you're dead. Which is also like that is so like I last midweek ran Kimmich there in Cap 270 rare. Why? Because if I can captain Kimmich, that's better than like what anyone else is captaining. And that's pretty viable, right? Like that makes my lineup way better. So like the fact that I can do that in Cap 270 is a big uptick to like what I want. Like this week I have Gonzalez captain. Like Gonzalez, if he starts, should smack today and put up like he could definitely put up 130 points for me in that situation. So I definitely don't like that as.
Do you think they did it because it kind of randomizes is not the right term, but like does it take less? I don't know if it's more or less skill, but like if you're running 5 great players and you get your captain wrong, and I have 5 players that are not as good as your 5, but I nail my captain and I win, is that good or bad?
I'll tell you when it was even more stupid was when it was an underdog, when there was only 4 players and that one player was worth 1.5 people instead. But like, yeah, you got to hit your captain. If you're not hitting your captain, because it's literally like an extra person. Like if your captain goes out and rolls a 90, you're getting like 135, effectively 2 people. So it's huge, and you just realistically can't miss your captain spot, which is I don't know. The idea of the game to me is to not have one player just dictate whether you win or lose. And I feel like a 50% captain dictates heavily whether you win or lose.
But does it allow lineups that are not as good to compete against the better lineups? Because if I get my captain right and you don't.
In theory, it makes them worse though. Like in theory, like I'm running Joshua Kimmich in 270 as my captain. I'm pretty confident your captain in 270 rare like isn't going to be as good as Kimmich. Like, yeah, you could obviously.
Well, I mean, obviously, most weeks it's not going to be, but I feel like it's at least lowering the probability that you win. You know, if the probability that you outscore my team goes from 80% to 70%, because every time you captain Kimmich and I captain Brian Lozano, like, does the 50% make up? I don't know. I don't know that I just can't stand it. I don't understand why they would make it like completely different than all the other regular modes that have captains and XP.
Yeah. So Ron Romero asked if we plan to do a short list of cheap players for Cap 220 and Cap 240. I don't think so. I mean, Cap 240 is just buy players and then just plug and play. Cap 220, I just wouldn't even worry about realistically.
Also,
So,
because they change every week.
and
Like,
Nanzo, who is one of the few people on the platform that has more lineups than me, he allocates 5 minutes a week to set every cap lineup, and he plays all of them. So it's a situation where I think that it's a situation where I just don't think that it's of that much worry. Like I don't know anyone that has a bigger gallery that's spending much time on capped.
this was Nanzo's Cap 220, as we're
Yeah,
talking
like,
about how it making it easier for lower galleries to. I don't think it's doing what we thought it was supposed to do. I'll squeaked by in there. I don't know. Ben is curious what we think of Nicholas's tweets today.
whole lot of nothing.
It seemed like nothing.
I mean, I read them. I was like, all right, so nothing's happened that's happened. So Surface came in and said he spent a lot of time on super rare and rare cap. I can pretty much assure you that you can have a better usage of your time than that, unless you have a lot of time. I would say Surface. Like if you're spending above 0 seconds on your cap 220, I don't know what you're doing. Cap 240 and cap 270, like those are more realistic.
What'd you say?
Cap 240 and cap 270,
Yeah,
when you spend time on those are fine. Especially
That's
super, super is okay. Like if you're spending time on cap 220, like you could definitely be doing something else with your time that's better served than that. So David just says more rewards tiers. We've known about more rewards tiers. Like it's been said for like weeks at this point that they're coming out with them. Probably this week is what we've heard, but like I don't see them. So we'll see. We'll see how it transpires and comes out.
Maybe they'll have a swap tier. If you swap
yes, Laird, why don't you talk about your swapping of cards and that story that's going on now?
I didn't really want to talk about.
Okay, Laird's not going to talk about it.
I'll just say that it felt like one of those situations where I wasn't that sympathetic to others who were doing it because I just didn't like appreciate what the process. Not that that's not true. I just didn't think I think swaps are really bad. I think they never should have started them.
I agree.
And not only did they start doing them, then they publicly acknowledged it and had set rules. And I just had a really bad experience with it where I won a tier 1 rare last weekend or last midweek, and the guy is out for 4 weeks. And so I was like, oh, that's eligible for a swap. And it was a card that I would have been really psyched to have gotten had he not been hurt. And I realized 4 weeks isn't that long, but it's also like a minimum of 4 weeks. We only have so many weeks left in the season. And so I was like, well, let me just swap it. And they gave me a swap. I requested the swap. They approved it right away. I sent the card in, and the card I got back was somebody else who's hurt, but he's not hurt long enough to apparently qualify for another swap. And I was saying to Sean, I submitted this. I was like, hey, you gave me another injured guy, kind of expecting some sort of response. And the response I got was, please just submit a new request for a swap, which I did late Friday night. It was Friday afternoon for me. And I haven't heard back yet. And I was saying to Sean that the floor price on the new card that I got just keeps going down and down because obviously he's injured and nobody wants to buy him. And so now if I'm playing this whole game of well, my card's not as valuable, I'm guessing the 10 spots behind me in the standings now got more valuable cards than the swap I got. And I'm still just waiting to hear back on what I get.
He did. So I
don't get.
Here's another question for you, because I have an opinion on this. So Alex Wilson said that he cannot wait for the new club shop. First question I have for Alex, is that sarcastic, or are you actually excited about the new club shop coming out? So while I wait for Alex to say that, I've actually heard a few people that are excited about the new club shop. And to me, okay, slightly sarcastic. Okay, so I feel better. I'm not going to be hurting Alex's feelings here. This sounds like the biggest thing that's just going to be like, people are getting their hopes up for no reason at all, and we're just going to see a new thing where it's like, insert this awesome banner here, yeah, and you're like, woo. When in reality, you're just like, I don't give a shit about this at all.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
Okay, so explain to me why.
I love I'm just kidding. No, it's not. I think that this new club shop is a positive. I think there are so many people on the platform like you who don't care, and I get it. It's like a very silly thing to care about, but there are ways that they can make your gallery more unique, and you can celebrate certain things in your gallery. And it's my thought. I have no idea what they have planned for this club shop, but it's just another way to interact with the game and to show off your club and to do all this stuff. I know this sounds nuts, but there are non-monetary positives in this game that make it more fun. And that's one of them. And I think that's really good. So I like people getting excited about this, I think is great. I think it's dumb, but you do you. And if you want to use your achievement points to get a new banner and that makes you happy, let's go.
Nanzo said he won Neymar for winning All-Star Rare. You should really send in for a swap based on Neymar's sister's birthday and see if you can get a swap based on that. But yeah, this is I don't know. I think people are, yeah. So Hatana said, I would love to have background color change item in the club shop. All right, let me rephrase this. I think that it's fine. I think that overall it's fine and a positive. But it's one of those things, it's like, wow, you spent time changing the font color instead of fixing the rewards for the last 1.5 years. And that's what it is. And you're going to say no, and you're going to say this is something completely different, but it's not. This is something that you spent time on this, something that is just totally not relevant. And
it is relevant. It's absolutely relevant.
But it comes at the expense of other things that are way more important that just aren't getting fixed.
We don't know that. We don't know that they're like, hey, whoa, I know you're about to fix the rewards, but I'm going to need you to stop that and go work on the club shop. We don't know that that's the case.
No, we don't.
They could have a whole club shop team of people working on this. And just because they work faster than the rewards people.
Time out. Counterpoint to that. Don't hire the people for the club shop team and hire more people for the rewards team.
You can't just do that. There's not just go hire the people to fix reward. It doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. You're not just going to hire anyone. And just because the club shop people are really good at what they do, and maybe they're not enough rewards people, that's what happens. Come on. These two things have nothing to do with each other. Let's just be happy about the one that got delivered. Well, it's actually not delivered yet, but
I disagree that I do understand they have two teams. They have a team for this and a team for that. And this team gets nothing done and never finishes anything. And this team is getting up stuff that makes it look bad that this team isn't getting stuff done and getting stuff taken care of. So I literally, I said, all right, so I don't even know what we have in the My Club stuff. I literally don't care and will never look at it. I did change my Hall of Fame once to everyone being Gil.
I love that. I do like that.
That was I was just staring at it the one time and I had someone in it. And I was like, I should just make this all Carlos Gil. And I did. And that was literally the expense or the extent of it. And hopefully the reward stuff is totally fixed. Hopefully, yeah, there's my Hall of Fame.
I think this is great. I think that right there is a positive thing to come out of Sorare, and that you took the 5 seconds to do it, and here we are talking about it.
Done.
And you, every time you go to your club, you see this, you get a little chuckle. It takes you 17 clicks to get to your club now.
I don't even know how to get to that page.
Yeah.
I literally don't even know how to get to that page. So literally, you're telling me that I don't know how to get to that page, and I don't go to that page. Like
But
literally,
don't blame the club shop people for that.
okay, all right, go to the football homepage. Let's see how many clicks. I'm gonna tell you where to go, and we'll see if so. Just go to Sorare Home. Okay.
Oh, I can't even, like, SorareData.
Yeah, just go to Sorare.com. All right, let's see how long it takes me to get there because I don't know.
It just brings me to football anyway.
Okay, so hover over home. All right, so I'm gonna go overview. So like click overview. I know this is the overview page, but like I'm gonna click overview.
Same page.
All right, it's not there. So like hover over market. All right, I don't think it's there. Hover over play.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking to get to that page where my Hall of Fame is.
Oh, well, it's going to be different for you. Like,
I don't know how to get there.
Like,
I
to
literally
your
don't know how
own.
to get there.
Like when I search your name, it pulls up your gallery like right away.
Yeah, but like I'm not searching my own name. I know myself.
Right. So you're saying, how do you get to your own?
How do I get to my own? How do I get to my 5 seconds of fun seeing Cartlo's Gill?
Yeah, that's
because like I've never clicked on that in my life. Never would. Like I'm not going to ever change my name. I'm not an idiot like Gald Guy 321. Like I'm not going to sit there and change my name.
There it is. There it is. Squads.
Why wasn't it squads for it? Literally, I don't care. I'm never going to go to this page in my life. Like literally, I probably could be on here for the next 6 months. And if you ask me in 6 months if I've gone to this page, the answer is probably no. I probably have not gone to this page in 6 months.
Oh, here we go. Okay, everybody in chat helped us out. If you hover over your link, I mean your avatar, and you just click your name, it brings you to this page.
Why would I ever do that?
There we go. So you can see your Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So anyways, I just would like to see like actual important things get taken care of instead of things that aren't important. And then when they release things that like they fix something. Have you seen like the rewards the last couple of weeks? It completely like whites out the one thing and you can't even see it. Like and the week before, there was just nothing there. It's like
there's nothing there.
I don't know. There's one thing that's important about the platform. One, the rewards distribution has to be accurate. That is like the most important part of this platform. And it's been 2 years. And it might be, they might fix it. Like we might sit here on whenever they come out with it. I'm thinking this week sometime. They might come out with it this week and we're going to be like, yeah, that's right. But if they do that and they come out with it this week and we sit there and we're like, yep, this looks good. We're going to be like, why the fuck did it take you 2 years? There we go. I dropped an F-bomb for everyone in chat. Just make sure everyone knows I'm alive and I'm out of Laird's purview. I dropped one for you.
Everybody can come back in 2 weeks when Sean.
I'll be suspended now until April. We'll see. I think. Sorry. I just want to see it working properly. Like, there's no way in the world that someone should win a reward of a player that is out long term that then therefore has to send in a swap to get a reward that is properly rewarded. Send in that swap, get a card that is properly rewarded, and then get a injured player on that swap. That just should not happen.
I'm not going to argue with that one. I am going to say, so before I do this, Memphis Prop says light mode toggle for 500. So this whole like move to dark mode, but they haven't done every page, feels like some like puberty age kid who's like growing a little bit of facial hair, but it's like not enough. So they're like almost there, but then you get pages like this that it doesn't come up. But the comment that I wanted to touch on was from Nanzo. Where is this? He said he agrees with you, Sean, that they prioritize the avant-garde stuff over the core stuff. And I don't think it's a matter of prioritization. It's that the easy stuff gets done. And so like the club shop or the move to dark mode or the way that you get into your cards, which is different and we all hate change and all this stuff, like that's the easy stuff, which is why it gets done like faster. Like the big stuff, it's not that they're like, we need to like finish the club shop before we finish the rewards. Like they know that they need to fix rewards. And it just takes longer. So like, I don't think we need to like shit on all of the good things. Well, I don't want to say all the
Laird out there
things that they're
dropping some
adding
swear words.
just because they haven't fixed the big one, because the big one takes time to fix. That being said, they should have fixed it a really long time ago. I can't believe we're still here talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean they do. I don't know. I don't think that there's
Now
I'm just trying to
everybody's
think
talking
of
shit on my Hall of Fame.
Laird more swear words today than me. Are you bringing out? Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. Wow, look at all. I just had so much fun, guys. That I just like I'm blown away by the level of fun I had right there. Wow.
But look at this. The UI is so great that somebody said you need to put Van Aken in that Hall of Fame.
I know.
Here we go.
I'm
Everybody's excited, Sean. People are at home cheering that finally the Lord is in the Hall of Fame.
I just had so
I got to
much
bring
fun.
Ito back too. So who do I take out of here? Honestly, I'll explain my Hall of Fame here. See, Sean, look, content being made out of,
All right,
out of this Hall of Fame.
We'll see you guys next month.
Keaton Parks. Oh my god.
Yeah, great. I just don't care about this stuff. I understand that some people care about it, and that's fine. And so like I get it. I don't know.
This stuff, like, as much as it doesn't matter to you, this stuff matters to people.
So you know what matters more to people? The rewards pool.
Sure.
That's what matters.
When that group finishes it, we'll get all of the reward stuff. But like the Hall of Fame group did their job. But anyway, if anybody has any suggestions of how I get Juni Ito back in here, Keaton Parks is the first card I ever bought. João Felix can't leave. I guess Messi could. I was just happy that Messi was here. And then the Tony Watt signature card that somebody gifted me. Thank you again for that.
So maybe Connor asked K-League thoughts from this week.
Yeah, I think the best worst thing about the K-League like situation right now is everybody like, man, I'm in line for like a tier 1. And then all of a sudden they're going to look again and it's like, you were 3 points short of a tier 3.
There's going to be some negative blowback. I'm pretty positive. I think it's coming in. I think it's like coming
there
in.
Are a few, yeah, Ulsan had their
Is it actually like in though?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't have any Ulsan players.
I have an Ulsan guy. 1 second. Yeah, no. Well, maybe.
Xiao Young Woo, maybe?
Yeah, no, it's in. Ulsan game's in. The only one. It's the only one.
Yes, the only one.
But what was I going to say? I have a lineup that I think in theory should get me a reward that wasn't going to get me a reward. But maybe not. Maybe they're too shit to give me a reward.
The only way I'll know is when Osmar finally gets his points.
Yeah, so Kim Young-Guan went from a 31 to 34. So didn't really move me up. But I have Cecilia and I have Azika in my Asia Rare Pro lineup, and I'm like just outside. I'm gonna assume that they got some AA and would bump me in. But yeah, I actually so here's the thing with the K-League. They need to figure it out, I guess, is the proper wording.
It absolutely murders the live experience.
Yes.
Like the throughout the game week experience.
Yes. For every region.
Well,
yes.
I mean, like for all of the regions that include K-League cards. Like Champion America is unaffected.
Correct. Like, but, for example, here's
also it's like all the cap modes, all the All-Star and U23, like.
So here's the example right now, Laird. So I'm currently 8th in All-Star Super Rare. 8th place.
Sure, Jan.
What?
I said, sure, Jan.
Yeah. 8th place is 0.31 ETH. Like you get a lot of ETH now for a top 10 in All-Star Super Rare.
Yeah.
I probably am not in All-Star Super Rare because the Asian lineups from the K-League will probably pass me. So it's just really ruined. Bad. Like, so all of a sudden, like I'm sitting here, like I know this is going to happen. So like I've already written this off and know I'm screwed. But like Joe Schmo, who like doesn't follow along with Asia and like doesn't know the K-League is screwed up right now. He's like, oh yeah, I'm in 8th. This is awesome. I have a pretty good shot to hold 8th. I'll get 0.3 ETH, the tier 2 super. That's awesome. In reality, I'm probably going to fall down to like 15th.
We have no idea.
But it's just going to be like a random thing that just happens to people that they're going to be like, really, this is pretty terrible. But so like, they have to figure out the answer, but the answer isn't like you can't remove K-League stuff. If it's eventually in, you have to let it be eventually in.
And honestly, we have like the best case scenario right now where there are no late games. Like once you
Correct.
get a late game,
Correct.
like this is going to be awful.
Yeah. Like every game was Saturday or Friday night late or Saturday night late. Like, there was no Sunday games. Um, so I think that they have to figure out how to go about this. And I'm not sure what the best path to go about it is, because you can't just remove the K League. And also, like, the problem is outside of Sorare's control to
Right.
some extent. And that's what people, so like anyone that's in there bitching at Sorare and like bitching and saying blah, 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 like it's not totally their fault. However, they are a customer to Opta, and they can be like, yo, we need you guys to figure this out. And this is what we need.
So
And they're
the
just
problem is that Opta blames somebody else too.
correct. And
That's
so the issue is that Sorare, it is Sorare's product. They are therefore responsible for the Sorare customers. And the Sorare customers have a right to be upset with what is currently going on. And someone mentioned a little bit ago that it's just like constant issues for Asia, and like Asia is just bad. And it's not good right now. Like, I think that the Asian region, like, I would not be putting any money into Asia right now, personally. Like, I have my Asian cards and my J League cards and my K League cards, but like, I would not be buying a K League card. Like, assume they do not have Opta coverage for K League and we just don't get it, right? You can never use a card. It's like Peru. It's like the Peru players. Yeah. So Alex literally just said,
the great thing is
Asian
Peru is
influence has
actually
no reason.
covered this game week.
Like, I have Cecina. I want to be able to run Cecina in Gas 3. I cannot run Cecina in Gas 3 if there's a chance that Cecina is not going to be covered from an AA perspective. Because, like, literally means any card that you have is just a no AA card. Your AA is 0, and you're just getting decisives, and that's not good enough.
I just wanted like this comment from Jack. It's completely in Sorare's control whether it gets fixed or not because money talks. It's really not. It's like you're completely wrong.
It's really not, but it also is. He's not wrong. Money talks though anywhere. Like if Sorare was pissed off enough to bitch to Opta and be like, we're not paying you, and then Opta's like, we're not paying whoever's there at the games. Eventually, you would hope at some level it gets fixed and then trickles back down. But yeah, like Sorare does not have like they do not have complete control. So like it definitely is not fully their fault, but I also agree with Jack. Money does talk. If there's money, if Sorare's like, hey, we give you $2 million to cover the K League and you're not covering the K League, we're not giving you the $2 million. That incentivizes Opta to therefore go and fix whatever issue they have is. And so it does matter to so Alex says you need a gambling company to complain at Big Powerhouse. I've been involved with many bigger companies than Sorare. It does not work. Opta is inept in their own reasons, and they are content being inept because there is no one else out there. So the big gambling platforms, the Sorare, the DraftKings, the FanDuels of the world are at the will of these companies, and there's only one. So it doesn't matter how bad they are. If there's only one, you can't really go to someone else and have something else taken care of.
Yeah, like that's the point I was going to bring up. Like Sorare is not Opta's biggest client. Like they're not in any position to call them and be like, you need to fix this or we're gone, because they're like, okay, go somewhere else. And they're just like, oh, we can't go anywhere else.
But
and then the one suggestion that I've seen some people say, we're like, well, get somebody else just for the K League. And it's like, you can't have that either. No. You cannot have that either. And so now it's like what do you do?
Yeah, no, I think that I think there's actually a market out there to create a company that is a stats provider that handles stuff more efficiently. But like the issue is like people don't understand. You need a lot of people and a lot of efficient.
But starting a stats company still leaves you in a situation where if they're like, hey, our cameras are down, you're out.
Yeah. So
Like
Connor
the
Connor
problems that Opta come into, like the problem that they are facing right now with K League applies to anybody who tries to score those games. So like, what is your solution?
Yeah, so Connor just asked, can Sorare do it themselves? Absolutely not. You cannot have in-house scoring because then you're just at a complete openness for scandals and things to not happen. So there's just absolutely no way you can do it in-house.
No, I don't think anybody realizes like what goes into scoring a game anyway. Like
No,
it's
well,
not like
that's
some guy in a seat in a stadium looking like, oh, Osmar pass to Lee Hambum back to Osmar. Like it doesn't work that way. It's so Chase is saying AI stat company incoming. Opta's probably doing that.
probably.
Like, Opta will probably be the first one to do it.
Probably. I mean, I'm not saying Opta's good. I'm not saying Opta's good either. Like Opta's pretty poor. Like they're pretty bad at what they do for the most part. But
like, what is the response if it's like Opta's really bad? They're also the best. What do you do?
well, that's what I don't think people understand. So you and I understand that from being in DFS, and we know that in DFS they used to use stats.com, and stats.com was absolutely horrendous. And Opta's like 10 times better. Doesn't mean Opta's good. It just means Opta's the best option out there, which is again an issue.
And I don't know if there are even ones that like StatsBomb is another one that does it, but I don't know if they cover every league that Opta does.
Correct.
So it was like, okay, we're going to go to stats.com or StatsBomb, excuse me. Ironically, Sean, StatsInc now owns Opta, but
yeah, no, I knew that, but
so like, but if they're like, yeah, we found this new data provider, but there's no Jupiler League, but everything else is really good, but no Jupiler League, is that okay? Oh, and none of the second divisions. But is that what? Let's do that.
So Nando just said delayed rewards due to K League incoming. If they weren't done in time, I would be fine with that. Like I think that is the proper answer. Like you have to sort of delay stuff for that. In my opinion, I understand that people are going to be upset, but like you can't just have the league not covered when it will be covered.
Yeah, I think that everybody thinks they have a solution, and then you ask them like one question, like, "How does this work?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. And it's like,
well, Laird, I do have fixes, but
what is your fix to this K League situation?
Fucking the K. I don't care about the K League situation from terms of the fixes. I'm talking about the rewards pool.
I don't.
I have answers to that, and I could have fixed that a year and a half ago.
Sean, how do you fix the club shop though?
I don't give a shit about the club shop. I wouldn't have cared about it. They would have said like, "Whoa, what about the club shop?" And I would have been in a meeting and been like, "Who gives a shit?" And I would have.
Raul said his gallery value dropped 7,000.
Raul, I'll happily trade you if you want in terms of gallery droppage. My gallery dropped like $200,000 in 3 weeks. So if you want, if you want to just send me over $193,000, we'll call it even, Raul. No, I mean it sucks. I mean. I think that people, you guys did a show on this, I think, during my suspension, and talked about like the rewards dropping and stuff like that. Like it is what it is. Like it sucks. Like obviously, I'm not sitting there fist pumping the fact that my gallery values dropped like $200,000. Like it's not fun, but at the same point, like it does seem like it has stabilized. We may be at like a new level after the stabilization. And that just is what it is. Like I try, but this is me, right? Like I feel bad for everyone that's like upset that galleries have dropped and stuff. Like I do. But the way I've always looked at Sorare is I cannot control the market, and I don't have my money either, Raul. It's gone. My money's gone. It's gone out the window. But like it's more of a situation. All back in ETH. Yeah, I'm down 100 ETH too. Down both. It's just
0.03 and 0.06 at a time, Sean.
It's a situation where like I can't control what the Sorare team does. I cannot control the price of the market. I cannot control ETH going up and down. I can't control any of that stuff. The only thing I can control is being good at the game. And so I just try to do that as best as I can and hope that like that is good enough in the long run. Because otherwise
The
I
drop's
don't really know
concerning due to
what
the season. We're almost at maximum utility. We're like very much not at maximum utility for European cards.
yeah,
Like the season is almost over.
you're at maximum utility when no one else is playing also for European cards.
It's like maximum utility in terms of like we have all of our cards available, but we only have two
Surface
2 months left, basically.
Surface asks, why do people complain about the rewards pool so much? Is the major decline in card value, the pools are inaccurate? I don't think so personally. I've never heard one person complain about the rewards pool in terms of like the price points of stuff. Like in terms of like the cards are not worth anything. The people complain about the rewards pool because they do not make sense. And if you're getting a prize worth way more than someone who finishes above you, that is not correct. And also, if you get guys that are like long-term injury or long-term suspensions, those people should be pulled out of the pools until you can get a proper valuation or some time to like reevaluate what they're at. And so Nanzo brought up a good point. He's like fluctuating valuations. Welcome to crypto. It's exactly like what the crypto space is. So I think that there's like I can't control what's going on in the crypto space. I can't control if ETH is going up, ETH is going down, Sorare market's going up, Sorare market's going down. All I can control is playing the game at the highest level that I can play it at. And that's what I try to do each week. And if that doesn't work in the long run, like 3 years from now and my gallery is worth $0, so be it. I did everything in my power to make it worth as much as I could. And I can't control the other things.
Yep. Yeah. Javier talking about the reward pool imply I'm good enough to win a card, which is certainly not true. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to have very many rewards coming in this week. So Surface, you think that someone should get a reward of a card that is suspended for a year and a half? So the guy's out for a year and a half, and you think that guy should be in the reward pool? Because I don't disagree with that, but you know how that guy should be in the reward pool? If they reward all DNPs and inactive players and reward everything. They don't do that. They do not do that, and therefore this guy is bugged because they haven't sold any recently, and none have sold on the market because no one wants the card. So therefore, they're using an outdated valuation of a month ago to tier where this card should go, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Do you have anything else about the club shop?
No, I'll literally the club shop will pop up, and you'll be like, the club shop's here, and I'll be like, okay, and I won't open it or look at it.
I'm gonna get you to do something in the club shop.
I highly doubt that.
Like you now know this is coming, and you're gonna go out of your way to like really not want to do something, and they're gonna have something in the club shop, and you're like, shit, I
really like when they give away rewards that are like jerseys and experiences and stuff like that. I find that stuff fun. Like I enjoy that stuff. So 2 people have asked us, or maybe it was just Ben twice, I don't know. But Ben said, what's your opinion on some sort of burn mechanism? And what do you think about it? So someone also earlier said, like, what's your thoughts on burning 10 limiteds for a rare type of thing? I think there's some validity in a burn pile of some sort. I don't know the best way to do it is I guess my issue. I think the best way to do it would be like creating a contest where you have to like forfeit your players to enter the contest or something. But I think it's a valid idea. I just don't know the best way to do it. So like I try not to give an opinion on something if I don't know how to do it better or like improve the process. Like the rewards ball. I have no problem talking about rewards and how to fix that and how to change that because I'm confident I could do a better job than what has been done up to this point. Not saying what's done this week or whenever they announce it isn't going to be better than what I would have came up with. But up until now, I'm confident that like I would have a better idea. I don't know how to do a burn option that well. So like I don't want to comment on that. But I do think like the idea behind it makes some sense and validity. What's your thoughts on that, Laird?
I'm perfectly content never having a burn mechanism. Like if we are competing, we're buying basically sports cards to compete in a game, like they're going to be cards that are worthless, and a burn mechanism basically increases the supply of cards that everybody wants because you're just like, oh, I'll just burn all these cards that are garbage and I'll get one that I want. But if we all start doing that, then like we all end up with the cards that we all want, and then there are just too many of those cards that are out there. Like I've never like had somebody discuss a burn mechanism with me, like a burn mechanism like idea that like either A made sense. They were like, oh yeah, just burn like 10 dead rare cards and you get like a tier 1 rare. And it's like, well, you're not going to do that. So you're just going to like burn dead cards to get like a barely alive card. And I just don't see the value in doing that. Like,
Yeah.
at what point is that like fun and helpful for the game? Like, I don't increasing or decreasing the number of tier 3 playable rares out there. Like, I don't.
You could have it as a situation though, where like you have to burn a tier 1 card in this lineup to play.
Yeah, I didn't buy these things to burn them.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I just am saying, like, I think there's at least an idea there that could maybe make sense. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I'm just saying I have yet to be presented with one that makes
Correct.
sense that I would want to do.
Correct. I same thing. Like, but no one's really presented something like that to me. Whereas like rewards ideas, literally everyone's presentation to me is better than like what has happened.
Sure.
And I'm like,
yeah,
that makes sense. But like, yeah, it's just like I don't know what would be better, and I'd have to think a lot about it, and I would have to have someone present to me something a lot more interesting. But yeah, I don't know. And yeah, so Surface just said for a burn mechanism to make sense, basically has to act as a lottery system. I agree with that. I think you probably have to have it in terms of like a sort of lottery where like you have a 0.01% chance of getting Mbappe or something. And like someone will get Mbappe, but it doesn't necessarily matter.
The burn mechanism thing is always funny to me because I feel like we constantly go back and forth between whether the scarcities are, whether the cards are really that scarce or not. Like, it's always like, oh my gosh, at some point there's going to be like 10,000 Erling Haaland limiteds. And then there's like somebody else who's like, if we had like 1 million users and only 10,000 of them could have a Haaland, that sounds pretty scarce to me. And like now we're trying to like figure out ways to make cards even more scarce when like I don't think we need it. That's all. But yeah, I haven't seen anyone like talk about a burn like practice where I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. That would be cool. Like they're all just like, I just want to burn my shit cards to get good ones. Like just go trade with Pavel. Like that's he's the burn mechanism.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you to everybody for joining us live. If you guys haven't hit the like button, please do so. We've got, like, as always, so many more people who are watching the video live. Quinny literally just joined us. So what's up, Quinny? I know Quinny hit the like button because Quinny minds his manners. So everyone else, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and somehow are still watching us after 68 minutes, just subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost anything. Just do it. Sean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to review the tape to see if he'll be back next week. You never know.
VAR check.
Yeah. we'll see. But
goal.
But most likely he'll be back. But we'll see. That'll be the new thing. Did Sean get suspended this week? We'll never know. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us, and good luck with your swaps.